Welcome to Education for Your Better Health, and we have some very exciting things to share with you today. And I have a very special guest from Canada, and her name is Elaine Gottchall, and she has written a book that explains and helps us to understand about a lot of things that create a lot of health problems that nutrition and proper eating habits has so much to do with our health and our well-being. And I was very excited when I heard about Elaine, and I felt that so many other people would want to hear about and be able to have a share in understanding all of the things that she's learned through the time that she spent in trying to find out how to help her daughter with her health. And that's a very interesting thing. When you're trying to help someone to get better, you look into, you research, you find out so many things, and then when you can share this with other people so that it can help them, that's exciting. And so that's what our show's all about this morning. So if you have any kind of a digestive problem, any kind of skin problem or anything like that, we're not here to diagnose, cure anything. We're here to help you understand how that you can have better health with some education to help you do that. And so I would like to introduce you now to Elaine Gottchall.
Thank you for having me, Wilma.
It's really nice to have you here. And I'd just like to show you the book that Elaine has written. It's called Breaking the Vicious Cycle, Intestinal Health Through Diet. And Elaine has so much to share with us. And we also have another guest today, and this is Linda Fanning. Fanning, okay. I was afraid I wouldn't get that right. And Linda is very special in our program today, too, because she has had the condition that we're going to be talking about, and she's used the program to help herself to have better health, and so we're really looking forward to hearing her experience also. But right now I'd like to have Elaine explain to us how she was able to help her daughter and all of the research that has gone into this. So I hope that you sit back and really maybe get a pencil and paper so that you can write down some of the things that she's going to talk about, because this is information that is just for a better lifestyle. And when we think about lifestyle, that is our whole pattern of the way we live, not just one aspect of it. So as we listen to Elaine talk, I think it will help you to become more aware of your own eating habits and how maybe you can make some improvements. So just get a sheet of paper and write at the top of it, goals for my better health. And at the end of the show, just see how much you've got from it and then try to learn to live by that. So now I'd like to let Elaine explain how she got involved in all of this.
Well, about 40 years ago, when we were living in New York City and trying to raise our family, our younger child, at the age of 4.5, was diagnosed with something I had never heard about. She had awakened at night, 2 in the morning, went into the bathroom. We couldn't get her out until 8, and I don't like to appear indelicate, but when we went to flush the john, it was filled with blood. We rushed down to our family doctor in New Jersey, and from his office called my uncle, who was an eminent internist in Pittsburgh, and he gave me the names on the phone of some of the finest leading doctors in this area of gastroenterology in New York. After 2 visits to New York, to New York Cornell Medical Center, she was diagnosed as having an incurable disease called ulcerative colitis, and we were told that if we put her on the prednisone, it was called cortisone in those days, that would probably control the symptoms, but if it didn't, they would have to remove her colon and put a bag on her abdomen. And I would like to say that one is very happy that there are life-saving procedures, but to do this to a little child, of course, anyone would be traumatized by the idea. Well, the prednisone did work for a little while, and then the symptoms returned, and the second time around, it no longer worked. And they were ready to operate. I rushed her down to Pittsburgh. My uncle put her on another drug, and for 3 years, we struggled with this child. She wasn't growing. She was having seizures, night seizures. Interestingly enough, there have been statistics reported that people that have gastrointestinal problems have a 40% greater incidence of neurological problems like epilepsy, schizophrenia. But she was having these terrible seizures, and we were just having a terrible time with her. She couldn't go to school anymore. She was having accidents, not growing, and through the grace of God, we were led to a 92-year-old specialist right in the heart of New York City, who after the second visit sat me down and asked me that question that I had not been asked by the 15 other specialists. Mrs. Gottchall, what are you feeding this child? And when I told him I was trying to feed her a normal diet, but she was throwing it up, he said, we're going to change all that. And he made 3 basic changes to her diet. The first 2 were quite simple. He said she cannot have any fluid milk because people with these conditions have the condition aggravated if they get the milk sugar lactose. So you are to make your own yogurt. And I remember when he didn't write things down, and my husband and I were really working hard to remember everything. He told us how to make the yogurt, and I thought, well, I can use that for milkshakes. I can make ice cream out of that, no problem. She can have cheese, he said, because the lactose in the good cheeses is all gone. So that was no problem. The second thing he told us was no problem. She cannot have table sugar. She cannot have corn syrup, but she can have honey. Well, we were used to using honey. I could sweeten things with that, but the third thing he told me was difficult. He said she can absolutely have no grains or potatoes or corn or rice. And I thought to myself, how can I bake for this child? How can I make her cookies? I want her to get better. I want her to have a normal life. So I called a friend of ours who made beautiful pastries. She was from Austria, and every time she had a party, she'd have nut torts. So I called her quickly, and she gave me the instructions. All I had to do was grind these nuts up in the blender, and I began baking muffins and cookies with them. We put this child on the diet. Within 10 days, the schizophrenic seizures that she had been having now for almost a year, 4 times a week, went never to return. My daughter is in her 40s, has 2 beautiful children. Knock on wood, but had a seizure back. Within 3 months, the intestinal symptoms went, and by the end of the year, we knew we were on our way. She was getting better. She had begun growing like a weed. The only thing that I left in New Jersey that I regretted leaving when we moved to Canada was the closet door where we were measuring her growth. Oh. Every week there seemed to be a ½ inch of growth. She was eating me out of house and home because she was making up for lost time. By the end of the year, we were out of the woods, and I began going to the medical library because the doctor was 92 years old when we found him. His name is down in the annals of history as being the first doctor to cure celiac, which is another intestinal disease. I wouldn't have bothered him. I had so many questions. Why was he the only doctor out of 15 that asked me what I was feeding my child? And the second question, how can food cure a disease which is considered incurable? So I started going to the medical library, and within a ½ hour, I found, with no problem at all, research papers that had been written in the 40s, 50s, and this was the 60s, which unequivocally stated when you have a person with an intestinal problem, diarrhea, severe constipation, you do not use lactose, which is in fluid milk. And I remember copying them down because the Xerox machines weren't around in those days, and coming home to my husband, and I was furious. I said, Herb, this work has been done, and nobody told us about it. And my husband is a very positive person. He said, Elaine, you've always wanted to go to college. Having graduated during the Depression in '39, I didn't have the opportunity. He said, you've always wanted to go to college. There's one 20 minutes away, Montclair State. He said, get in there and find out what in the blankety blank is going on. So I entered at the age of 47, and I spent 12 years on a treasure hunt. I was on a treasure hunt. I wanted to read the research, to study it, to do research, and to find out how food can cure a disease. And
you know, the interesting thing about what Elaine is talking about here, there was a beginning to this, but she had a goal in mind. When she started working with her daughter, I mean, when you think of how many people you know that their children may have some condition or something, and they don't know where to turn or what to do, but she set out to find out how to deal with this, and where there's a will, there's a way. That's what I was taught. And if you keep that principle in mind, you can, with determination, you can find out a lot of things. And we have a person here who is going to share so much with us that she has done, took all the energy, all the time to do all of this research, and she's willing to share that with us. And so we want to really be grateful that we can listen to all of the details of what she has to share with us. So this is really exciting. So don't go to sleep on us now. We're going to get right on here.
Well, I just want to say